York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? Happy New Year. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. Welcome to 2017. This is the first podcast of 2017 for New York Muscle Radio, number 142, Powerbuilding 101 with Jorge Rosado. So in today's episode, your muscle building coaches discuss how to mesh hypertrophy and strength training to build a Greek god physique. Big guy, what's going on, man? Happy New Year.
Anthony said hypertrophy, man.
I love that. I love pisses people off.
He's been called out on that since what, like episode 10?
Yeah, man, hypertrophy. Because that's how it looks. That's how I call it.
Hypertrophy.
That's how it looks.
Hypertrophy. It works.
Hypertrophy. That's so like.
If you want to impress the the geeks and the scientists and everything, then you got to say hypertrophy.
I'm from Brooklyn, man.
That's how we do it, man.
So what's going on, man? How was your New Year's?
New Year's was good, man. Like I said a couple podcasts back, Christmas came and went very, very fast, and the New Year's came and went very, very fast. So I think all of 2016.
Did your balls drop?
Yes. I didn't hear everything of what you said, but I got the gist of it, so I'm just going to say yes.
Oh, yeah, just say yes. All right,
yes.
Good. So when you re-listen to this, you'll be like, oh, shit.
No, I heard what you said. I just heard half of it. But yeah, so 2016 was a good year, went by really fast. 2017, it's already here, and nothing's changed as far as the podcast. We're still going to be pumping that out, except for we're going to have some new additions to the podcast, which is good. So definitely moving forward in that direction. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, man, we're super excited. 2017 is our year, like everyone on Instagram is saying. But I know I'm very, very organized and detailed-oriented. I've set down so many crazy goals for this podcast, so I'm super excited for it. So I guess we'll just roll right into it. I want to announce we're having a new segment. So we're kind of going to change things with New York Muscle Radio, but it's a good change. It's not a bad change. So one of the things that we've asked for criticism on the podcast was we were requested to do more female topics. So instead of doing female topics interspersed throughout, what we decided to do was New York Muscle Radio is going to be New York Muscle Radio Network. And within that network, we're going to have sub-shows. So it's still going to be us, guys. Don't panic here. But every Friday, well, the second podcast of the week, if that happens to fall on Friday or Thursday or Saturday, whenever my co-host here finished dropping his balls off, that's when we'll release the second podcast. But the second podcast is going to be the Bikini and Barbell Show. And this is going to be a podcast specifically for women topics. And we're going to do some crazy things with that. It's going to kind of be like its own little mini show within the New York Muscle Radio Network. So you don't have to do anything different than that. Just look out for those episodes that will say Barbell and Bikini and Barbell Show. And yeah, I'm super excited for that, man. I think it's going to be a cool thing. And we're going to add to the New York Muscle Radio Network later on with a different type of a show somewhere in the middle of that. But our goal is to be able to get you guys more content more often. And I think this is the perfect way to kind of ease our way into it. So I'm super excited for the Bikini and Barbell Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we're definitely not taking anything away. We're just adding some additions for you guys. And again, it's going to be a little bit more just to organize the show, especially for the female listeners, because they put up with all the stuff we put out there that's not necessarily geared towards them. So we're going to have, a nice little treat for them. Every single week there will be something for the females. So if you want to stick to female only shows, when they're going to come, but we hope you listen to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure there's some things that the guys can get out of the female shows versus when the females listen to this show or whatever, any of our shows, they get stuff out of it too,
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to learn, information even for females, even if you're a guy, just because a lot of times people, like terrible coaches and just the guy in your gym will give a female the same type of advice they would give a male. And I mean, the reality is it's not everything is very different, but there's definitely things that you can't just do the same thing with men and women, So you want to educate yourself on everything. If you're like us, and most of our listeners are like us, you do like educating yourself on every aspect of this sport and this lifestyle. So you definitely want to know about the female. Don't
The
want to.
female. You want to know everything about the female, the anatomy, any little bit you can know.
We're gonna get to that as an additional show, but that's down the line. Let's not give that away yet. Eventually, 2018 maybe.
All right, take it easy, big guy. We're gonna have a private show, a private video show.
Man, your mind is in the gutter, man.
It's a new year, man. I didn't make fun of you. Well, yeah,
New year, and not many things changed.
Yeah, well, I'm not a new year, new you type of a person, so
That's good.
And guys, also, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel already, which you should have, it's newyorkmuscleradio.com/video, you would see that there's been a lot more video content coming out, and that's going to be pretty regular from now on. So make sure you subscribe there because who knows, man, maybe, you may see another whole show on there. Who knows? And maybe I'm spilling the beans, maybe I'm not, but there may be a whole show on there coming up. So again, subscribe to that, and be on the lookout for new things. But again, the newest thing is going to be that bikini and barbell show. And again, we're gonna have us, we'll have a lot more women co-hosts and guests and whatnot. This show is gonna be geared toward wearing a bikini and lifting barbells.
Yeah,
maybe we could put you in a bikini, big guy, for this. Maybe that'll be the
they don't want me doing that. We'll get someone who actually looks like they should be wearing the bikini. We'll do everybody a favor.
I got the glutes for it.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, if we just crop your head off and take a picture of you, you'll be perfect, man.
My torso. I don't think you want my pecs and arms.
I would take it from the back.
I look like fucking China, the wrestler.
Oh man, but yeah, like we said, we're doing this for you guys. So again, we got a lot of stuff lined up. But if you guys wanted to go in any type of certain direction, definitely drop us an email. Let us know what your thoughts are, what you really want on the show. If you want specific guests, if you want specific topics, just like we do with every podcast we do, we take some of your information, whatever you guys want to, your ideas, whatever you want podcast topics on, and we'll put them together for you guys. We're going to do the same thing with that show as well.
Yeah, exactly. It'll probably be the same format. We haven't really discussed it, and considering it's supposed to come out this week, we probably should get on that, big guy.
Yeah.
But this is how we do things here at New York Muscle Radio Network.
It'll be a New York Muscle Radio production if we leave it till the last minute.
Yeah, but it always ends up working, so
that's
fine.
how it works.
All right, man, let's move into the trending topics. I got a cool one for you. So I found this article on Esquire, and it's about Arnold opening up about his body issues. And I'll take a quote directly from it. He says, "I'd look in the mirror after I won Mr. Olympia, and one after another, and think, how did this pile of shit win?" So basically in this article, Arnold goes on to talk about how he never was satisfied with what he saw in the mirror. And I think that is so true, but I think that this article kind of spun it like, oh my God, Arnold's opening up about his body image.
Right.
Like, I think when Arnold looked at himself in the mirror, he was very critical, but I don't think he said, oh man, when he says, how did this pile of shit win? I don't think he actually meant that literally. Right.
I mean, it could be spun in that way, which the article probably did. Knowing Arnold and how confident he is, it's very hard to hear to have that image in your head of him actually looking at himself and thinking he doesn't look good. You know what I mean? But if that's the case, that's very interesting because that says a lot about confidence and his level of confidence, because looking at him, listening to him, and just hearing him speak and show off of his physique, especially in his prime, you would say, wow, he's super, super confident. But if that's what he was really thinking, then it's interesting to say, okay, maybe that's all an illusion. Maybe that's just, that's the vibe he's putting out there, but it's not true confidence, because if it was true confidence, he would feel that way about himself. And I'm not saying that's the case. That might be just the way they spun it. But if that is the case, it's a very interesting, way to look at it. Like, wow, somebody as confident as Arnold, he still had the same insecurities that we all do. So a lot of people are searching for that, that bulletproof confidence. I guess that's the way you could put it. And they think, oh, Arnold had it. I want to be like Arnold. I want to be that confident. When in reality, he might not have actually had that. So it just, it's a good look at it to see what the real expectation might be. Again, they might have just spun it in that direction. We don't know.
If you're a book reader like me, you've probably read Arnold's books, and I'm not talking about his encyclopedia of bodybuilding, like his autobiography and stuff. And in the autobiography, he talks about Arnold. One of the things that he always was known for doing was making big, bold statements. And his rationale was, whenever you make a big, bold statement, it gets people's attention. And as you can see, I'd look in the mirror after I won a Mr. Olympia and think, how did this pile of shit win? Of course, something like Esquire magazine is going to take that and say, wow, what an article. But it's just so funny. This guy was around in the 70s, and they're talking about his body image.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, if that's true, then that says a lot, you know.
Yeah, he's far from a pile of shit, that's for sure. I would take that pile of shit any day.
Well, yeah, you see, that's the thing. That's the bodybuilder's mentality, and I have it. I'm sure you have it too. You know, I've gotten on stage looking great, excellent, leaner than everybody. I've been on stage and been the leanest competitor at the whole show, and I've looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Shit, I could have been fucking leaner," and I could have, you know. But it was good enough to be leaner than everybody else, and you're still overly critical. Oh, you're not lean enough. You know, I was upset because I had one striation in my glute, not two. You know, and I think that's just a bodybuilder mindset. I think that's what makes any athlete or anybody great at what they do, being overly critical of yourself, because you never settle for mediocrity. And, you know, I think that you could even spin exactly what he's saying in more of a positive light. Obviously, that's a little bit more negative, but you could spin it in a positive by saying, you know, he held himself to that high of a standard that, you know, even when he looked that great, he still thought that compared to what he could look like, it was a pile of shit, just because he thought he could look so much better.
Yeah, it's funny because when I won my powerlifting meet, when I won the whole thing, one of the things, as soon as I was done, I said, how did I win? I'm still not where I need to be. And for my ultimate goal, I'm not there. So many people are stronger than me. Like, and it's not coming from a point of not having confidence. It's more one of those things where, like, I'm going to go back to the Arnold quote. The wolf climbing the hill.
Right.
He's not as hungry. When he gets to the top, the food is there.
Right. I mean, and that's just a motivating thing in the end of it, you know? It's because you're so motivated to do good. And a lot of times, it's funny because a lot of times we're motivated by, you know, we've talked about this before, but you're motivated by some negative things. Like, you might be motivated by an insecurity. Like, you might subconsciously somewhere be insecure that you're not as strong as you should be, you know? And to you, putting up 500 pounds on a squat and deadlift, you know, shit, that's still weak. Even though you beat everybody, to you, you might look at it and say, shit, I'm still weak. I'm only squatting and deadlifting, you know, around 500 or whatever it is. You know, so you're motivated to do more. So you're taking an insecurity, and it's motivating you to do even better, even though you're already winning. You know, that's how crazy it is.
Well, there you go, guys. So if you feel bad about yourself, just look at Arnold. All right, let's move on to the listener question of the day. Again, guys, if you have a question you want us to answer, you can submit it on our website, NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. So it's listener question. So today's question, this is actually a question. But again, you guys can call in your question. So go ahead and do that now, because that's a cool thing. And we actually have a voicemail that we have to play for the next podcast. But all right, guys. So the question, I've been listening to you for some time, and I've listened to some of the old podcasts, and you guys were talking about eating hard-boiled eggs. I have a new twist for hard-boiled eggs. First, take your eggs on a plate, take a fork, smash them up real good, then take some apple cider vinegar, about a tablespoon. Sounds gross, but very good. I've been eating this for a long time. Tim Chris. So I guess it wasn't a question. It was more of a statement.
All right, interesting. I never actually used apple cider vinegar as a food, or like to put on my food. I've only drank it as a supplement. So I've never used it like on a salad or for any other reason other than to supplement with it.
Yeah, I've had it in teas, and I gave that recipe out. I think it was a couple podcasts ago that I gave that recipe out. I've had it like that. But yeah, man, I'm sure it's good, but I won't be having my eggs that way.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to try that.
Yeah.
I like my eggs plain.
Yeah, I like hard-boiled eggs too. They don't bother me. The problem with the hard-boiled eggs is I just take them and I just prop them right in my mouth. I don't sit there and break them off, you know? Obviously, I have to break the shell off, but I'm saying, like, I don't break it in half at that point. How do you eat hard-boiled egg? I just eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. You know what I like doing also? Sometimes I'll actually make like a hard-boiled egg sandwich.
What the hell is that?
So like if you have hard-boiled eggs and you're just in the mood to have it with bread or something like that, I'll just cut them up and put them on bread and eat them like they're regular scrambled eggs on a sandwich. It's actually pretty good. You know, that's the only other way I'll eat them. I won't like get too creative with it, but I'll chop, like, you know, if you were to chop them up and put them in a salad, I'll chop it up and put them on bread and eat it like a sandwich.
Do you like deviled eggs?
I love deviled eggs if they're made correctly. You know, sometimes I've had them and I'm just like, ugh, they're not that good. But I've had them depending how you make them. And yeah, a good deviled egg I love.
My wife makes great deviled eggs.
Oh man, don't tell me that. Does she make them with lots of mayonnaise and hydrogenated vegetable and soybean oils in there?
I was just gonna say that. So I'm surprised you would even eat that.
Yeah, they're still good.
My co-host is. He looks up in the ceiling as he says, "Yeah." My co-host here is petrified of soybean oil because of the soy in it. That's how OCD he is with that.
I wouldn't say I'm petrified of it. I mean,
dude, you're petrified of it.
no, I'm overly cautious of it. I ate your
this-
daughter's cupcakes the other day, and they definitely had soybean oil in them.
They definitely had a lot of soybean oil in them. You liked them because my daughter gave them to you.
Yeah.
But wait, no, hold on. So one of the things that I thought this was really funny, and I'll bring it up on the podcast. My co-host here. So not only does he look at, so he'll look at the nutrition facts. He'll see how much how much fat's in it, how many carbs, how much protein. Then he'll scroll down to the ingredients. And then if soybean oil is up there in it, what he'll do is he'll see, so okay, soybean oil is the first ingredient, let's just say. He'll scroll back up and look at the fat content to make sure that, so if it's a high fat content, it's like, well, this thing is primarily soybean oil, so I will not be eating this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to look at your amounts. You know what's funny? I mean, we're joking about this, and there's some funny content there, but it's
really OCD.
Yeah, but there's a good lesson there, too, because a lot of people, especially people that follow flexible dieting, they pay attention to macros and they don't pay attention to ingredients. And yeah, the macros are really going to dictate, weight loss, weight gain, body composition, and stuff like that too. But then you still have to look at the quality of the ingredients in your food because, if you're on minimal fat sources, listen, if you're going to agree with me, if you're on minimal fat sources, you're dieting, let's say you're a female, you might only have 30 or 35 grams of fat in your diet. You don't really have much. The quality of the fat that you're going to be eating is going to make a difference. You know what I mean? Especially let's say you were on a lower fat diet, you were contest
No, wait a
prepping.
minute. So you think that, so let's just say we have two females who are dieting. Both fat levels are at 35 grams a day. So you're saying that if one has 35 grams of fat from soybean oil, that she's going to have a different physique than the other one who has it from a different source.
For a female on low fat soy and a female, there's not going to be a huge difference, but that's not the best example. But let's say let's use a guy, he's on 45 grams of fat, 50 grams of fat, which is low. I don't even recommend going that low, but in some cases it might be necessary. Two guys, 45, 50 grams of fat. One of them, all his fat is coming from, let's say they both are slightly out of shape. One of them, they both might not have optimal testosterone. They might probably have slightly elevated estrogen. If one of them is eating 45 grams of fat, all from soybean oil, and the other one is eating 45 grams of fat from, good fat, saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, everything, not soy, I'm going to argue that one of them is going to be able to get in shape a little bit faster, a little bit better.
No way, man.
Now you're talking about hormones that might be manipulated with the diet.
Dude, how long do you think you'd have to eat soybean oil for it to actually affect your hormones? I'm talking about two guys that are on a diet and they both, let's say they already have suboptimal hormone levels and they can improve upon it. So one of them might need to pay attention to his diet more than the other, is what I'm saying. Man, I don't know.
I'm not saying it's a make it or break it type
I don't think
thing.
someone, if you realistically said, all right, you can only have soybean oil, I don't think someone would actually only have soybean oil. And the same on the other end. If we told the person, oh, you can only eat avocados.
Nobody's going to do that, and we wouldn't tell anybody to do that anyway.
But
so
I'm going to argue with you there that you're wrong.
It's never going to happen. We're talking about a scenario that'll never happen anyway, which is why flexible dieting, you don't really have to pay attention to this stuff too much, just because what we're saying is, the whole principle behind flexible dieting is, okay, if you want to eat the mayonnaise or whatever, eat the mayonnaise and then substitute it for whatever other fat you're going to eat.
But now I'm thinking what you said. Realistically, if their fat levels are the same and it's 45 or 50 grams a day, both their hormone levels, it doesn't matter where it's coming from, it's still going to be suboptimal.
Yeah, they're probably going to still be suboptimal.
It doesn't matter if it's soybean. If one has 2 tablespoons of mayo and the other has freaking a tablespoon of avocado, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay, but let me spin it in a different way. Me and you, we'll use us as examples. We both consume probably about the same amount of fat, right? Our hormone profiles are slightly different.
Very different, actually.
Yeah, certain things are very, very different. Now, if we both ate the same fat sources, do you think that maybe your hormone profile might improve a little bit and mine might stay about the same on the same fat sources?
No, I don't think so.
So you think you're doomed with the low testosterone?
Yeah, I think that's a genetic thing. And first of all, it's not low, all right?
I know. I just had to throw that in there.
It's and funny, oddly enough, if you want to spin it like that, you probably watch the soy content more than anyone else ever know, and your estrogen levels are way higher than mine.
Yes, my testosterone levels are way higher too, though.
So then you could relate that to the food, no?
I have no fucking idea, man. We should have turned this off an hour ago.
Now we're just having a debate on the podcast.
We're having a debate, and you know what? One thing we can agree on, And okay, so I said my point, he said his point, but the one thing we're both going to come full circle on is, again, if you follow a flexible dieting lifestyle, that whole approach is to eat the foods that you want when you want them. So if you want to eat mayonnaise with your deviled eggs one day, you're doing it that one day. It's not like, okay, this is my diet, so you're not going to follow the same exact thing 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So having a little bit in moderation here and there is not going to change anything. Having good stuff in moderation is not going to change anything. Having bad stuff in moderation is not going to change anything. The only time it's going to change is when you keep it consistent for an extended period of time. With flexible dieting, you generally have a good variety of everything, and if you're hitting the same macronutrients, you're going to reach your goals. So that little bit of difference is not going to make a big deal. Yeah, when I do it, it's OCD. That's too much. Most people won't do that, and if you don't do that, you're good. So I think we can agree on that.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with today's topic, power building and Jorge Rosado.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down the tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bang!
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big Pete, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week arm experiment, the ultimate arm growth program, ebook, the audio book, and the workout video. Pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
Nice, Pete.
What?
I saw you checking out that girl's butt.
What? I was just checking out her yoga pants.
Pete.
I was thinking you'd look really good in yoga pants.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to check out what brand it was. I was looking at her form on deadlifts. They were all messed up.
Do you think she has a nicer butt than me?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like a pancake.
Did you just call my butt a pancake?
Well, I mean,
What can I do?
you gotta try New York Muscle Radio's Glutealicious program.
Glutealicious.
Yeah, you'll finally get a celebrity booty, like all the other girls following the program.
Fine, I'll do it. But don't get jealous when other guys check out my glutealicious ass.
Glutealicious, your guide to getting a celebrity booty in 12 weeks. Now available exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
Hey, great coffee.
Doesn't it taste good as fresh perk?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Caffeine, the world's only instant coffee that's fortified with muscle-building protein. Visit buyproteincoffee.com now.
All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 142, Power Building with Jorge Rosado. I'm definitely saying that wrong, but I got on the line here George. We'll call him George for us gringos because we can't roll the R, as I learned earlier. But we're going to talk about power building here, and who better to do it than this guy right here. This guy competes in the 83-kilo class in powerlifting, competes in bodybuilding. He's got a great physique, super strong, and he's got a handsome beard. He has... Right, big guy? You can't grow a beard, right? You don't have enough testosterone to grow a beard.
No, that's not me, man. I wish I could. I'm a little jelly on that one.
So, Jorge, what's up, brother? How are you? Am I rolling my R right or no?
That's dude. You got it on point, man. That sounds really good to me. I'm not disappointed.
Good. I had some Taco King earlier, pizza. That's why I think I was able to roll that R better. But what's going on, man? So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into this podcast here.
Well, so let's just start off by, obviously, like he's introduced me, I am George Rosado. I'm a sponsored athlete by De Novo Nutrition. I also have my own consulting business, New Breed Physiques, which I just started about 6 months ago. But before that, and foremost, I want to say I am a competitive athlete, both for the bodybuilding aspect of it, and now more so I'm trying to catch this powerlifting wave. But essentially, about 4 years ago, I moved from Boston to Florida.
Oh man, Boston. Park the car. Come on, do you have a Boston accent?
Dude, you say Boston just like a New Yorker is supposed to say Boston. Like, there's a difference. Like, Boston or Boston, and you say Boston. That's how you know from New York.
So tell me you parked the car. Just tell me quick.
Park the car.
Yeah, man. Pete, you gotta clip that out. Clip that out for us so we can use that in other episodes.
Oh man, of course. You gotta watch what you say on here. We might use it against you.
That's pretty funny, man. But yeah, man, I moved here literally right after graduating high school. And dude, man, I don't know. I started training. I started training in high school just because my first passion was baseball. So going into high school and all that stuff, I was really passionate about baseball. And then, I let my social life get to me and started getting bad grades. So that went to shit. And I just started lifting. I started lifting to get the anger out of me and stuff. And then that's when I moved over here to Florida. And I was training at this gym, actually the gym that I train at now. One of the personal trainers, his name is Matt. He was like, dude, like, have you ever thought about competing? Like, you got a good structure. And I'm like, nah, not really. Like, and ever since he told me that, like, I'm talking about, he gasped my head. I'm like, what? Shit. I'm like, man, I'm feeling good right now. Like, so I looked into it, and then I signed up for a show, and I did my first men's physique show, came in second. And then from there on out, one of my buddies introduced me to Paul Ravella from Team Pro Physique. Met up with him, and dude, from there I just did like 3 or 4 shows that one year, and I came in second literally like for 3 shows in a row. And my last show, it was actually the day after my birthday, August 12th, the Florida State Championships. I won my class and I won the overall. There was like 50 guys and just in the whole show. Wow. Which is pretty cool, man, because the guy that was in the tall class was pretty damn big. But we just brought that conditioning. Shout out to Paul for that. And then from there on out, people kept telling me, like, dude, like, you got the legs to do bodybuilding. So I was like, you know what? Like, let me try this out real quick. Like, I was getting ready for nationals for men's physique, and I just decided to jump in a bodybuilding show. And, man, I actually came in second in the open class at my first bodybuilding show. Then the following year, I did the same show and actually won my class in the overall. Then from there on out, that's when kind of powerlifting was getting into the scene. Lane Norton and all them were doing it. And I was looking for a competitive edge for my off season just because I'm just such a competitive athlete that I feel like that will hold me accountable. So then I signed up. I was actually getting ready for a show as well, and I decided to, on my way down, to just do a powerlifting meet. And that was, I believe it was July 15th, 2014. And I mean, I won my class at that time, which now, man, you wouldn't even be close to winning with those numbers. Like, the competition has just, man, grown immensely. And then I've been in the off season ever since, man. I just been grinding out this powerlifting stuff. Then I did my second competition, 2015, the same exact one. So I took a whole year off doing any competitions, and I actually won the silver. I believe my first competition. Let me see if I can pull up the numbers right here real quick. I actually made a chart earlier.
What are you reading, the wiki page about yourself?
Yeah, man.
So, George, wait, what are you competing in right now, and what's your current focus right now? Powerlifting, then?
Powerlifting, yes.
Okay.
I'm just, I honestly don't see myself competing anywhere in the near future as far as bodybuilding goes, man. Like, I feel like I've really hit my sweet spot this off season. I just, I think I put up some decent numbers as far as, my squat, bench, and deadlift goes, and powerlifting. And my body composition it's not a bad place to be in. Like, I'd feel comfortable taking off my shirt at the beach, right?
Yeah.
And just psychologically, I'm just a much healthier person, man. Like, dieting down for shows is not fun, man. Like, a lot of people think that it's all sweet and dandy because we're always smiling on Instagram and all that stuff, but they don't know what's really going on behind the scenes, man, when we're walking around like zombies and just pretty much starving ourselves.
Yeah.
And just feel like shit like 85-90% of the time. So just that aspect of things, I'm like, man, like every time I see my buddies compete at a bodybuilding show, I'm like, oh, like I want to get back on stage. Then I think about that and I'm like, I don't know if I want to get I'm actually enjoying being strong and just eating right now. So
I hear you. So I guess this leads us into today's topic, which is power building. So for those of you that don't know, power building is something that I guess because George actually sent me his routine, and it's literally, I got to send you mine back because it's identical. But so basically, power building is a combination of bodybuilding and powerlifting in which the goal is to get as big and strong as possible. So power building meshes hypertrophy and strength training by focusing on heavy compound movements with weight progression. So now you're focusing mostly on powerlifting right now. So obviously we know that getting stronger and getting bigger go hand in hand, but are there any specifics you need to focus on for one sport or the other?
Absolutely, man. I feel that, you practice like you play. In powerlifting, you have to essentially it's a squat, bench, and deadlift, right? So, I mean, it's sport. Specificity is king for any sport. So, majority of my training revolves around the 3 compound lifts just because that's what I'm focusing on right now. So it only makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, I usually I do a lot of volume. I've gotten accustomed to a lot of volume now, so I do incorporate a lot of hypertrophy work just for the aesthetic portion, physique aspect of things. So muscle groups that don't necessarily get much activation during the squat, deadlift, and bench, such as the calves, the biceps, a lot of back movements, pull-ups, rows, and stuff like that, which obviously, like we've said, there's definitely some direct correlation into the main lifts as well. I mean,
so how much is bicep training helping your deadlift? Be honest.
Dude, I could almost curl 500. What you mean?
There we go.
I lied because I hook grip, man. So that's tough.
Yeah, actually, you posted up a picture of your thumbs. That was brutal. That looks bad.
Dude, believe me, at first I was a baby. I couldn't even do it with like 315. Then I just kept doing it. I'm like, you know what? I need to stop being a little bitch and just suck it up and just do it. So I just kept doing it more often, and I finally, I literally have no sensation in my thumbs now.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you need. Sounds good. But hook grip is cool because the reason why I like doing hook grip action, it's funny because it kind of ties into this, is for development purposes. I mean, when you're under overhand, you can definitely hold on to more weight, but you're also moving your body in a different position by having one hand underneath. One shoulder is exposed, one arm is exposed. And for development-wise, you could definitely see development in more on the opposite side. It's crazy. So when you have both hands over, everything develops evenly.
Dude, 100%. That's how you create a lot of imbalances and stuff like that. And that's one of the main reasons why I actually had to commit to hook grip, and because under over is just a lot of helicoptering goes there. Now, if you're not as efficient in the deadlift or just technique mastery of the lift, and now you're incorporating under over, there's a lot of risk for potential injuries. And like I said, imbalances was one of the main reasons, just because I kept leaning towards one side. So over time, dude, it was like my right side of my abs, or my left side. Yeah, no, my right side. Yeah, because you want to hold on, you want to over with your strongest hand, right? It just, I don't know, man. I felt like it was just crunching down a little bit more. Like it was just more suppressed. And I felt like I was having hip issues for some reason. Ever since I switched to hook grip, dude, I just feel like everything's so much more imbalanced, more balanced out. especially just throughout the whole movement.
So one of the things I think with power building and just in general strength training or powerlifting type training is that bodybuilding training kind of takes a backseat to it. And we know that bodybuilding type training and strength training is very different. Obviously, with a strength training program, you can be focusing mainly on the main lifts because that's what you're competing in. But for me, for example, like I'm a competitive powerlifter too. I want to get better on the powerlifting platform, but I don't want to look like shit either. So for someone listening to this, how do you kind of incorporate both? Because there's kind of like a give and take. So I want to hear like how you kind of balance it out.
You're absolutely right. It is a give and take. It's just cost of opportunity, right? kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Going on there. But it's just, so here's the thing. It's just like they say, be a jack of all trades, be a master of none kind of thing, right? So as far as that goes, it honestly depends mostly the time of the season that it is. Majority of my training, for example, like I said, it took me a year to compete to get back on the platform. So you really think that I'm just gonna base most of my training just off squat, bench, and deadlift? Absolutely not. So really far out, and like majority of my training does revolve mainly around the big list, but also a lot of hypertrophy work. So for example, like let's just say day one, I would usually squat, bench, and deadlift. Then after that, I'll do stuff that's not as necessarily as taxing. So something like tricep pushdowns or side lateral raises and just calves. And I do that for very RPEs of like 6 or something like that. So nothing that's gonna let me see how I say that. Essentially, is gonna interrupt my recovery for the big lifts. Essentially, to when I come into the next training session, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man,
So then do you ever just throw pure bodybuilding training in there? Like, let's say you just start your off season for the whole year. Will you put bodybuilding exercises in there that might not have carryover to all the lifts? I know you said that you were doing lateral raises and calf raises and stuff like that. But even for those main muscle groups, like if because for bodybuilding purposes, you could arguably get away with just doing heavy squats if you want to grow your quads. But do you throw in like the leg extensions, leg presses, stuff like that maybe might not have direct carryover, but can work well for hypertrophy purposes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually do. I incorporated a lot of leg extensions just because, like I said, it's not necessarily as taxing, or there might not be a lot of interference with my recovery as far as the squatting. But I typically squat 3 times a week. So that's why I don't incorporate much of leg pressing. So mainly more, I want to say actually more hamstring movements, just because as far as we know, like you don't get really much activation in the hamstrings when you're squatting. So I try to incorporate a lot of SDLs, leg curls, laying leg curls, and majority is hamstrings. So since I'm squatting 3 times a week already.
How many times a week do you deadlift now also? 3 as well? Or
no,
2?
Just 2.
Okay, so you sumo deadlift also. So when you sumo deadlift, you use a little more quads. So is that why you're doing a lot more hamstring movements as well?
Exactly. Perfect. Yes, and that's my first year I actually did deadlift 3 times a week, but then I was just getting cooked, squatting 3 times a week, benching 3 times a week, and deadlifting 3 times a week. So I brought it down to 2, especially since I've been getting stronger over time. And ever since switching to sumo, yes, I do definitely get a lot of more quad activation. So if I don't incorporate any, accessory movements that are going to target the hamstrings, then I'm pretty much ain't doing much for my hamstrings. So like I said, I want to stay pretty balanced out, just because when I do decide to get back on the bodybuilding stage, I definitely want it to show, and I care about my aesthetics, right?
So I want to jump in really quick. So how long did you say it was since your last bodybuilding competition?
Oh man, I think it was 2.5 years now.
Okay, so you had about a 2.5 year break from bodybuilding, and as you said, you eventually want to get back to it. And so you're keeping in some bodybuilding work right now. In those 2 years, how's your physique actually changed? Have you made improvements? Has anything kind of taken a back seat? Overall, have you just gotten bigger? Like, what type of improvements in the bodybuilding area have you made since then? I'm curious because I think a lot of people listening to this might go the route of powerlifting and strength training, but their goal might be more physique based.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, honestly, like, I feel like ever since I started incorporating more of the big three and just focusing more on these compound movements and just essentially progressive overload over time, because that's the nice thing about essentially having a structured program with progressive overload. As far as these big three lifts go, it's just, man, like the amount of density that I've been able to put on my frame, it's definitely been noticeable. At this weight, I've never been as lean as I've been before. So I honestly feel that as long as you have some kind of progressive overload with these main three lifts, it's definitely going to carry over to a lot of the hypertrophy work. So that's going to help out a lot as far as building muscle.
One of the things, my powerlifting career is relatively new and young, but one of the things I noticed since, focusing mainly on powerlifting for the past year and a half, I noticed that I have to do a lot less accessory movements now. Like, I'm kind of learning, like, okay, I don't want to kind of waste my energy on this exercise. I'd rather put it more. So, for example, like lateral raises. I feel like I don't get as much out of lateral raises as I think I should. And I think I spent way too much time in the past doing too much exercises for that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put the extra volume toward shoulder pressing because I get more out of shoulder pressing. So I've been doing a lot more of that. And it seems like my physique is taking on a whole different look. Are you finding the similar thing for you?
Absolutely, man. Like I said, I definitely feel like I've added a lot more density to my physique, specifically my glutes, man, just because of the sumo deadlifting. So that's always a good thing, man. So when I do decide to cut back down, man, hopefully those glutes look nice and full and straighted up there. Yeah.
So what about like as a general rule of thumb for someone who wants to compete in powerlifting and in bodybuilding or men's physique, how do you recommend planning your training throughout the year? Do you recommend splitting it up into kind of phases? And if so, what kind of phases?
Absolutely. So I definitely feel like if your focus is more so of the physique aspect, then I do believe that you should base your blocks. So a block is essentially, it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, or they call it mesocycles, right? So majority of that training does want to come from, high rep ranges. So anywhere from, 8 to 12 or even above that. But you could definitely have, so for example, usually what I recommend is you could have a 3 to 1 ratio. So 3 hypertrophy blocks for every 1 strength block, anywhere from, 3 to 4 weeks, and then back to hypertrophy phases. Just because if your main focus is bodybuilding and physique endeavors, then you should definitely be majority of your training should definitely come from those higher rep ranges.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then, if somebody's goal also, let's say they were planning out their year of training and, they wanted to do a meet and they also wanted to do bodybuilding. Obviously their goal in that year is to get as strong as possible and to get as big as possible. What would you recommend as far as when you're, planning that training out? How would you go about incorporating the diet? Would you kind of just keep it consistent straight through? If you had, let's say you had a year off season where you were just going to bulk the whole time, would you recommend just planning that year of training incorporated with a full-on bulk, or would you have dieting phases or anything like that involved in it?
So like I said, it just honestly depends on the individual's goals as far as what weight class are you trying to compete in. Is if it is that a meet that you have in mind. But even then, most of the time I don't recommend cutting weight for a meet. I mean, unless you're going for any world records or something like that, or you just have, a couple pounds. But anything above 5%, I usually don't recommend cutting. But definitely do it. I mean, if you're in those if you're in a slight caloric surplus and your majority of your training is coming from volume phases, man, you're just gonna put on a lot of size. Like honestly, like most of the size that I did put on within these couple of years, it has been because I've been in a caloric surplus, but also just hitting those higher rep ranges. So more of the, like I said, three volume blocks per every one strength block. And I feel like that's helped me out a lot personally.
So let's define that a little bit more for the listeners. So when you say a volume block, like, so if, for example, you said, you're using DUP, obviously, I'm assuming from what I saw from your routine and what you were talking about, you're squatting 3 times a week. So how do you set up that block? So do you train in, you said higher rep range. So what rep ranges do you use and kind of what percentages will you program a volume block in?
So typically, as per, Dr. Mike Zordos, you guys had him on not long ago. He does a lot better job explaining it than me. But per his recommendations and from the literature that's out there, from Brad Schoenfeld and, Mike Israetel does a good job as well explaining it. Typically, a volume phase, it's going to be in the higher upper ranges. So like the way I structure my volume phases is usually, for example, day 1. Let's just say is Monday. I usually do reps of 10. It could be anywhere from like 65 to, I want to say 60 to maybe 65% or so, or even up to 70. I want to say 70% is usually you could do about 12 reps. I think Mike Zordo's, that's his recommendation or what they say. But so for example, I would do 10, 8, 6. So day 1 is 10, day 2 is 8, and then day 3 is 6. And then I would do 65, 70, and 75%. And then I'll do 3 sets. So for example, I'll do three sets of 10. I'll do 4 sets of 8, and then 5 sets of 6. And then as the weeks go on, I usually, depending on how the weights are moving, I'll usually add a set, or I'll just do 2 to 5% increment on the load for one of the days. So for example, if I'm better at reps, if I think that my day 1, if they're typically like RPEs of 7, but then my day 3s are just like RPEs of 9, then I'll just won't add weight to day 3, but I'll add a load to day 1. So you're essentially still increasing volume, because that's the whole purpose of a volume block, is to build up work capacity, right?
So do you keep track of like your overall volume then per body part? So let's just say like you said, you want to be able to look good on the beach and you want to be strong. So do you keep track of how much volume you're doing per body part then? So for someone, I'm trying to like talk to like for the non-competitors, people who just want to be big, strong, and lean. Like, so what kind of training should they be doing? And as far as like programming, it would be the same exact thing. But what would you recommend to someone who's just wants to get as big as possible, as strong as possible, and as lean as possible?
So general recommendations for hypertrophy training, for volume, I would say, anywhere from 15 to 20 working sets, 15 to 25 working sets per muscle group per week. As far as frequency goes, I would say, at least 2 to 4 days per muscle group. Frequencies could be anywhere from like 60 to, depending on the phase. So if it's a volume phase, like I said, 60 to 75%. And then if you're running a strength block, then anywhere from 70 to 85%. So for programming, as far as accumulation phases goes, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, you could add, 2% to the weights per exercise. And then obviously you incorporate deloads in there and stuff like that. But for every mesocycle, I would say definitely, 8 to 12 reps or so for the volume phases. And then for strength phases, I would say anything below 6 is good general recommendation.
And then I think another question maybe somebody listening to this might have is, you mentioned that during the volume phases is really where you added the most amount of muscle. And generally with the volume phases, like you said, the rep ranges are going to be a bit higher. Do you recommend that, again, it's going to be more specific, obviously, if somebody's training for a meet, but let's say they're not, and they're going to go through some of those volume phases because they do want to get stronger, but they also want to add muscle on. Do you recommend on those higher rep days they get their volume in with higher RPEs or lower RPEs? Because a lot of people with the bodybuilding mentality think that they always have to take the RPEs to like 10 or even beyond, And as far as getting the volume in, obviously you're going to have to scale back a little bit on the RPEs to get that all in. How do you recommend for somebody, again, looking kind of just to put more size on but also get strong, go about that? Because, like I said, I really think a lot of people think the RPE has to be like 10.
Okay. So typically, like you said, a lot of these bodybuilding just think that in order to build muscle, like you just have to go balls to the wall every training session. So what if you take those 15 sets that you do in that one training session and you essentially split it up into a week's worth, right? So now you're able to essentially get in here and not feel like death and not be out of the gym for like a week, because that's what happens if you go balls to the wall in that one single training session. Now you won't be able to train for a whole week. Like, let's just split that up into 3 days. So for example, like I said, I squat 3 times a week. I do 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 8, 5 sets of 6, and keep them at relatively low percentages of my 1 rep max. So like that, every time I get into the gym, I don't feel like death. I feel like I could definitely train again. And now I'm hitting that muscle group, more frequent than not.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things when I was a full-time bodybuilder, I guess, and just wanted to look better, whatever, I was always saying, all right, I'm going to power build right now. So for me, that was always like, all right, I just got to lift as heavy as possible. But this is where I think that bodybuilders kind of lose it, because this is where powerlifters have the edge, because you just know how to program. It's just a whole different ballgame when you look at lifting weights as a skill and as a game almost. You're always trying to add more weight to the bar, and there's so many different ways to do it. Programming volume blocks in there and strength blocks. So for someone who, like we said, wants to be a power builder, I would say like your main priority should be focusing in on your training. So using a training journal, writing things down, being meticulous with the weights you lift, and not just going to the gym and saying, all right, we're doing chest today. I'm doing 4 plates. That doesn't matter. You have to really be diligent with your training and really focus in on the exact percentages. So let's use you as an example, Jorge. So what are your goals in powerlifting now? So what did you squat at your last meet, and where do you want to go to the next one?
So my last meet, just this past weekend, December 10th, I squatted, my third attempt was 551. For deadlift, for bench, it was 325, and then for deadlifts, it was 628, which ended up with a total of 1504. So the first time breaking 1500 finally. Like I said,
I'm sorry, what did you bench? I'm writing this down as we speak.
325.
325. All right. So when's your next powerlifting competition?
So I don't plan to compete until next year's nationals, which is in October. Sometime in October 2017. So it's a long way to go, man.
All right. So what are your goals then for those meets? Like, what do you want to hit? You'll see this will all add up. So where do you just give me a rough idea?
Okay. So honestly, man, I like a 650 deadlift. I know I'm not going in order right now, but I'm just really looking at the deadlift. So 650 deadlift. Let's just say something realistic, man, would be like 345 bench. And then for squats, 575 would be dope.
Okay. So you want to add that much to your total. So your squat, you want to go from 551 to 575, bench 325 to 345, and deadlift 628 to 650. So how would you kind of, I mean, totally rough this, because remember, people listening to this as a podcast. So how do you plan out your training for a year in advance to hit those numbers? What do you have to do? Because obviously along the way, you want to get stronger for your meet, which is obviously the goal, but you also want to look better as well. So how are you going to structure your training for the next year? And again, you could give us the gist. You don't have to go into detail here.
So, like I said, majority of my training, for now, I am going to focus more on, let's just say, just strength phases. So, just because I definitely have gotten stronger, I definitely don't want my lifts I don't want to detrain my lifts. I know that there is going to be a phase where they're going to slightly detrain, because that's what the whole purpose of peaking and all that periodization is for. But I'd probably do 1 or 2 volume phases for every, I want to say 1 or 2 strength phases. So majority of my training is going to come from the lower rep ranges as far as 8, 6, 4. That's majority of my training for after this block. So I just came off my powerlifting meet. So right now I'm running an active rest phase, which is essentially just working on unilateral movements, higher rep ranges, just getting back into the gist of things. So then after this 4-week block, I'm going to start doing 9-7-5, 9-7-5, and then from there I'll transition into 8-6-4, and then base majority of my training around those 8-6-4 rep ranges, while increasing volume via sets or via loads, so anywhere 2 to 5% each week, and then just take it little by little, man. Just incorporate some peaking phases. So as far as 5-3-1s, just to see where my strength levels is at. We could do that by doing a triple, or incorporating AMRAPs and stuff like that, and that's a good way to gauge my where my strength is at. But like I said, man, it's just honestly how I'm gonna get to those numbers is just building up volume over time incrementally.
So I want to talk a little bit more about nutrition now, because as far as powerlifting and bodybuilding, obviously nutrition's a little bit different, but like you said,
a little bit,
being in that surplus is definitely going to help you both get stronger and build muscle. So obviously, let's say if someone's main focus was to just continuously get stronger and bigger, surplus is the way to go. But if you're trying to maintain your body composition, let's say maybe for you right now, you might not want to put on any extra weight, but you do want to get stronger. What do you do in that sense? Do you kind of just keep yourself at maintenance, or do you go through phases where you are in a surplus, then cut back a little bit? How do you go about it?
And actually, in addition to that question, let's define what a caloric deficit is for you, what a maintenance is for you, and what a surplus is for you, calorie-wise. So let's just say, for example, you lose weight at 2,000 calories, you maintain at 2,200, and you gain at 24. Just so the listeners get an idea.
Okay, so as far as, let's just say, caloric surplus for me, it'd probably be around 3,100 calories. That'll put me slightly like in a 300, I want to say 300 calorie surplus. I don't take it too aggressive, so I do play it more conservatively with my surpluses, just so I can put on more just lean muscle mass and just reduce fat adipose, or minimize it. And then for deficit, man, I believe coming into nationals, I was actually in a deficit. So I believe it was like 22 to 2,300 calories for me to essentially maintain that 183. So that's just on another side. That was the issue that I am having right now. I'm currently having a dilemma whether to move up a weight class or not. Just because in order for me to be 183s, I kind of have to be in a slight caloric deficit. And I am a very lean 83. So I was considering moving up to the 93s, like just letting my weight be like, it's been 4 years since three something years that I've been competing in 83s. So if I was looking at it from a bodybuilding aspect and powerlifting aspect, like it would make the most sense. Like, okay, like if you go up a weight class, you're going to get stronger. Are you going to be as competitive in the first couple of years? Maybe not. But over time, as long as your Wilks score is going up, then yeah, like you are making progress. And as far as bodybuilding goes, like, dude, like okay, you're getting heavier. You're building on more muscle. Like next time you cut, you are going to be bigger on stage. So that's the one thing that I am struggling currently with right now. But as far as how I structure my calories during, let's just say, volume phases or going into meets and stuff like that. So, for example, right now, I don't compete till October of next year. So what I'll do is I'll let my weight climb. So I'll let my weight climb slowly. So I'll gain about a pound a month or something like that, a pound or two a month. Give myself a caloric surplus. And then if I do want to compete in the 83s, then what I'll do is I'll just slowly start cutting down. So nothing too drastic. So anywhere from 0.5 to a pound per week, just so I could retain most of my strength. And I've been successful so far these past couple of years. I've let my weight climb up to like 195, 198 at the highest, and I've cut back down and I've maintained most of my strength. So that's the reason why I'm like, I really haven't had any issues before, so I don't see why I shouldn't keep doing it.
And you mentioned that you feel like you look good at this weight right now, and you're comfortable where you are now. You can take your shirt off. But what happens if you feel like you get a little bit too fat? Do you diet down? Like how does that work for you? Like, and how should a listener listening to this, let's just say they're in the same dilemma as you, where they want to keep getting stronger, but they don't want to get fat. Would you run like a diet during that time, like a mini cut almost?
Absolutely, yeah. Mini cuts are very useful, I believe, and as far as like the psychological aspect of it, like you want to feel comfortable in your own skin, man, and that's something that during volume phases, that's when I typically would recommend running. Being in a caloric deficit or just running a mini cut. Like actually one of my clients right now, he just came off this meet and we're going back into volume phases, and he decided to do a 6-week mini cut, which is perfect because I mean these are you could pretty much go in there and hit 60-65% for sets of 10 while being in a slight caloric deficit. Like it's not as demanding as 90% for doubles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, during volume phases, so higher rep ranges, anywhere, 8 and above, then I would definitely say go ahead and run a 6-week mini cut if you feel like you're just getting borderline too heavy. So, for example, if you've been like in an off season or in a surplus for, 8 months or something along those lines, and you feel like you're just like you're right above the line of like, okay, like this is a little bit too out of my comfort zone, then yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I should leave my shirt on today.
Yeah, exactly. If you're absolutely run a 6-week mini cut or something like that, and you should be good.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Big guy, I know you're still over there, but how would you define power building in your terms? Because we didn't really hear from you, and I know it's funny because I'm a powerlifter. Mm-hmm. Jorge is a powerlifter. So how do we where do you chime in on this?
On my definition for powerlifting, I mean basically to me,
power building, my
power
friends.
building.
That's the name of the episode.
Yes.
You're the co-host of this podcast, and you're saying powerlifting.
No, I said power building. What, you can't hear? I would define it basically, as having strength training as the basis for your progress. Because bodybuilders generally don't have a clear-cut definition of what they're using to progress in the gym. Their goal when they walk into the gym is, kill the muscle, fill it with blood, get a good pump. And there's no real criteria for being successful with their training. Power building, you're going to focus on, you might not have to base it strictly on the powerlifting movements. You could, if you're not competing in a meet, you can pick other movements like an incline press or a front squat or a Romanian deadlift and focus on those movements as your base exercises, and your goal is to get as strong as possible on those main movements and maybe a few others, and you're going to use that as the marker for progress. And in turn, if you add a caloric surplus to that, it's a pretty good mix to build some serious strength and muscle. So that would be how the average person could set up a power building program.
Yeah, so if I could summarize this for everybody is don't get too fat, focus on getting strong, and you'll get bigger, and your physique will dramatically change. I mean, you heard it here from Jorge, myself, Big P. We've mentioned this so many other times. Jorge Rosado, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. We appreciate it. Where can our listeners find out more about you and maybe watch some of your videos because they're really, really inspiring, man. Like I said, I've been watching you for a little while now, and I'm just looking for a reason to get you on the podcast.
Guys, I really appreciate the opportunity, man. It's been an honor being on here. I've listened to a majority of your podcasts even before you guys reached out to me. So you guys alone are a huge inspiration to me as far as entrepreneurs and businessmen and all that stuff goes. But if you guys want to find out a little bit more about me and watch some of my videos, you can find me at fitness_IQ on Instagram, and on YouTube is MyFitnessIQ for that. But those are just my two main plugs, my two main platforms that I'm actively on.
And what about your coaching, man? Come on, I got to plug it for you. I've seen your Excel spreadsheets, man. I'm really jealous.
So if you guys are interested in any coaching services as far as general strength training or meets or just physique endeavors, you guys can find me at newbreedphysiques.com.
Perfect. Big guy, your turn, pal.
All right, guys. Pete and Anthony with Jorge Rosado, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.